Yes, there we go then.
Good morning, everybody. It's fantastic to be able to welcome everybody to our first digital Health and Safety Committee meeting. And it's nice to see you all again after such a long time. Committee services have now started recording, so just to remind everybody, I'm going to start by handing over to Councillor Havard, who is our chair.
Well, Emma, to get it absolutely right, I'm not the chair yet.
Okay.
Carry on.
It's, I think, first of all, you need nominations for the new chair. And you'll have to do that, I think.
Okay, just hold on a second and we'll be good with that. You can just bear with me a minute. Just having a few IT issues.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing that we need to do this morning is to appoint a chair of Corporate Health and Safety Committee for the for the coming year. Could we have nominations, please?
I nominate Derek Havard for chair. Councillor Alan Hicks.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Move nominations closed.
So we have a chair. Councillor Havard will carry on as chair of committee.
Yes.
And we need a vice chair.
Emma, my hand is up. Councillor Mike Adams, and I was going to nominate Councillor Kent as vice chair to continue.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Could we have somebody to second that?
Yep, second.
Second that.
Could I ask that if Councillor Havard and Councillor Kent both happy to carry on with those roles?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, please.
Wonderful.
Right. Okay, Emma, thank you very much. Shall I take over now?
Do you want to just state the bit about recording, or have you got a bit to cover with that?
Well, I got my script here, just in case I was elected by Emma, Amy. So do you want to read it out?
Yeah, I'll hand over to you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all very much, members, for your confidence. It's a pleasure to work with you as always. And I must say that I've had tremendous support from Steve all through these few sessions, and I thank him for that as well. Right, just to confirm that this meeting will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals present and/or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. If members lose connection during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Committee services staff are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if necessary. Can I remind members to please mute their microphones, but to leave their cameras on? Can I please ask that officers have their microphones and cameras turned off until they're invited to present their reports or speak on an item? Members and officers should only activate their microphone after the chair has invited them to speak on an item. Today we'll be using the hands up function for voting on agenda items. Right, now I've got to take a roll call of everybody here. This is like being back in school, is this right? Mike?
Present, Chair.
Phil? Phil, yeah, I know you're there, Phil. You still got hiding. I got you. All right. Is Colin Gordon there?
Yeah, I'm your chair.
Dave Hardiker? Alan Higgs, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, Walter, Neil Funnell. We got apologies, are we? One from Neil. Can't hear you.
No, I haven't had any contact from Neil. Just from Leanne. Alan.
Juan is here. Leanne isn't. And Gary, I've got apologies from Gary. The officers present are, or should be, please call out, Dave Beecham.
Yes, you.
Lynn Donovan.
I'm here, Chair.
Well, Lynn, how are you? How's Merthyr?
It's fabulous as always, thank you, Chair.
As always. Wish I was there. Richard Edmonds. Richard.
I'm here.
Richard, Ed.
How are we doing?
Okay. Ed, do you think you can have 5 minutes at the very end of this to have a quick word about something?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all.
Thank you. Kerry Edwards? No? I've got apologies from Janine Edwards and Sue Richards. Richard Phillips.
No, Sue Richards, sorry, Chair, Sue Richards is here.
Is she? Okay. Oh, is she? Right. Sorry about that. Richard Phillips. Emma.
Apologies from Richard,
Chair.
Right. Emma, yeah. Still with us, Emma.
I'm still with you, Chair.
Mark Williams.
I'm here, Chair. Hello.
Right. And Andrew Wigley. I can see him. Well, I saw Andrew earlier on, so I know he's there.
Yeah. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. I think that's everybody on my list. Right. In which case, we move on to the agenda proper. Which is, hang on, I got some declaration of interest first. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interest in the respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution, and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. And the first item on the agenda, number 5, is to look at the minutes of the meeting that we held on the 17th of February. So will somebody, well, read the minutes first, obviously. Where are we? Minutes, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Could somebody move those minutes, please?
I'll move, Chair. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mike.
Seems a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, thanks. All in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No dissenting voices. Okay, that's fine. So the next item on the agenda is, where are we? Papers everywhere. The accident statistics report for January to September 2020. Are we having a report on that, Emma?
This is an information item only, Chair. The report sets out the the Council's accident statistics, January to September 2020. It is a self-explanatory report. It's the last 3 quarters, so it takes into account that we've missed a committee meeting, obviously, because of COVID in June. In terms of the accident statistics, they are very low, which I think is a reflection of the fact that the council has been forced to run services in a different way and in some cases not do things. So not a lot of accidents over the last 3 quarters. That's really all I've got to say.
Thank you, Emma. Any questions?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, go on. Yes, Mike.
Just to look, I've looked through the reports a couple of times now, and this is to Emma. Have we been able or had to make any home visits to investigate any reported accidents from home working?
No, we haven't. In terms of accidents related to home working, it would need to meet very, very specific criteria to be reportable. So we would issue guidance on people, for example, making sure that their cables are tucked away so they don't trip over their cables. We would only be interested in accidents which are caused by the workplace, which obviously is not a factor, the work organisation or the work activity. So generally, all we can do as an authority is give our employees the guidance to set up their work environment safely, but it's not reasonable or possible or practical for us to go out and check that that's being done. And we've certainly had no requests for investigations, but we wouldn't be amenable because we're not actually in control of the environment.
Right. Thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you.
Chair, Councillor Higgs's hand was up and flashing on and off. I'm not sure if he's got a question.
No, I haven't. I read the report and yeah, my mic's on. I read the report, like I said, and I'm quite happy with it.
Okay.
Very good. I'm just having trouble with my hand signals. I'm away for a long time.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mike. That's a very interesting question about accidents at home. Now that so many people are working from home, it's I hadn't given it much thought really, but next time I get my foot caught tripping in and out of the office, I'll have to report it to Emma. She'll have to come and measure it. Anyway, thanks for the question. It's a good one. Thank you. Right, item 7 on page 29 is recent HSE updates. Emma, still you.
I'm actually going to hand over to Andy Wigley for this item. Again, it is an information item only, so Andy will just quickly whip through the main content of the report, if that's okay, Chair.
Over to you, Andy.
Good morning. Yeah, so this report is self-explanatory, as Emma explained. It explains the recent HSE enforcement action that's been taken by the HSE in relation to local authorities or cases that may be of interest relevant to the work of the local authority. So you'll see that there's various cases of prosecutions of local authorities, but also one there in relation to South Wales Police, but that one related to installing of computer data cables. There's one of an independent school as well that was prosecuted that again is going to be relevant to us. There's been no new legislation from the HSE other than in relation to COVID, and of course that is regularly changing. Thank you.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, we got Councillor
Unless
Bevan with his
anyone's
hand
got
up.
any questions?
Councillor Bevan's got his hand up.
Right. You hear that, Councillor Bevan? Phil?
Yep, I'm there. Sorry about that. Andrew, I was just wondering on page 30, item 5.2, local authority prosecution on a rollover of all-terrain vehicles. Do we have any, and are they properly secured? Because it looks to me as if these boys had been secured with a seatbelt, they would have died rather than get these horrendous injuries, because they'd have been stuck with the machine, because it happened so quickly, doesn't it? Do we know, do we have any of these machines? And are they
Yes,
well
we will have. They would include things like your ride-on lawnmowers, certain tractors. You're correct in terms of the requirement is that if there is a risk of a vehicle rolling over, then the operatives must wear a seat belt or lap belt. The reason for that is that if a rollover is to start to occur, then automatic intuition would be to try to jump clear of the vehicle. However, typically the attempt to jump out isn't quick enough, but then subsequently the vehicle would actually land on top of you. So therefore the vehicle should have like a rollover cage, and therefore the lap belt is to make sure that you stay within the confines of the seat, and therefore will be protected. What appears to have occurred here is that the operatives were not wearing a seatbelt, and therefore they subsequently got trapped by the vehicle and injured.
Okay, another one, Chair, if I could, on page 3154. School prosecuted for allowing pupils to operate unsafe machinery. Well, the machinery is not unsafe. They just operated unsafely, I suspect, because the bandsaw, I think you've got to be over 18 before you can use it. But there are quite a number in our schools, and I just hope that the safety regulations in those schools are being looked at. Juan, I don't know whether there's anything there for you to look at.
You're bringing me in there. I got my hand right. Yeah, on the issue of schools, I would just like to ask Andrew. I know we've had some HSE spot checks on the arrangements of schools. I wonder if you had an update for the committee there. I believe they've been somewhat positive, but I know in some schools, especially in Scotland, where they did spot checks, there was issues with distancing in staff rooms and issues with wearing a mask. I just wondered if you had an update on our inspection.
Yeah, so Emma may wish to jump in on this, and she has got a hand up. Can I hand over to Emma for that one?
Yes, just to update you all, we have had visits from the Health and Safety Executive. Inspectors visited 2 Caerphilly County Borough Council schools. They visited Greenhill and they visited Isloyn High. Both inspections went very well, which I think is a testament to the hard work of the head teachers and staff at both schools. There were no specific recommendations. The HSE were pleased and happy with arrangements and practice in place at both premises. They basically looked at the arrangements. They were provided with copies of the risk assessments in advance. At both schools, they turned up prior to the children arriving at the start of the day. So they observed entry onto school site. They met with head teacher, myself. They also asked to meet with either a union rep or a member of school staff. We didn't know that they were going to make that request. So head teacher effectively at both schools grabbed a willing member of staff. We weren't allowed to be present in the room when those conversations took place, to give them the opportunity to comment on arrangements without feeling that they were being observed effectively. At Isloyn, we had some conversations around ventilation, but again, not in terms of the school non-complying, but that the HSE were keen to sort of draw attention to things that were topical across educational establishments in the UK generally. Then they were also keen to emphasise that their visits were supportive rather than looking to enforce, and there were no formal recommendations from either inspection. They were very complimentary at Isloyn in terms of the comprehensiveness of the risk assessment. They did a little walk around of an area of site in a socially distanced way. Again, they were very happy with arrangements at Greenhill, so nothing specific for the authority.
Chair, can I come back in?
Yeah, yes.
The thing I'm concerned about is for comprehensive schools, really, where they would have bandsaws, and if they don't have the proper equipment on it, like a push rods or the things that they could use, and they have to be over a certain age. I'm just wondering how keen we are as an authority to make sure that those schools comply with the law on bandsaws, because they are dangerous machines. And of course, grinding machines as well are considered to be a danger as well. And we need to make sure that stones are dressed properly and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm talking without thinking about my own school at the moment. It's Ysgol Gavin Cymru. I need to get up there and have a look to make sure that it is safe and they are complying with the laws relating to these dangerous machines. Well, they're not. They are dangerous machines. Only dangerous if you misuse them.
Well, thanks for that, Phil, because I agree with you. I mean, there are a number of machines that we use in schools that in industry are declared to be safe in many cases, you know, and things like bandsaws and grinding wheels, as Phil says, particularly. And, you know, one thing that my school got into trouble with when I was teaching was that the man who was changing the grinding wheels had not had any training in that thing. No, it's quite easy for a badly fitted grinding wheel to split into 100 pieces as it's flying at a very fast speed. So people who change the wheels should really know what they're doing. And I know at that time the school management didn't seem to think it was important, but as we know, Phil and I know, and I suppose a lot of you other people too as well, just how dangerous a workshop can be. So it's good to hear that report, though, I think. Which was the other school you said, Emma? You said it's Sloy High, and what was the other one?
Green Hill.
It was a primary.
Green Hill Primary.
Oh, it's a Green Hill.
They wouldn't have bandsaws.
No, the inspections were solely with regard to COVID compliance.
Right. I hope they don't anyhow.
The trouble is, Phil, you never know.
No.
You never know what creeps into schools.
I'll be checking my 2 schools.
Yeah, I will too. I'm glad you said that. I hope others will do as well.
Chair, we got a lot of hands up, or somebody just flashed off again.
Sorry.
I've got Councillor Walter Williams. Sorry, I said we've got a few hands up. I said a few come up. It's Juan, Emma, and Walter. And Andrew, I think Andrew Emma's just covered Andrew's point. But Walter first.
Walter, is it Walter?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy. My query is 5.1. It's my understanding that if a tree blows down, as long as it's maintained and inspected, it's classed as an act of God. But if you have a tree even in your garden and you don't look after it and it causes damage during these high winds, you could have a fine. Excuse me, you could have a fine. You could be liable for it. But as long as it's maintained and checked, you could be in the clear. I mean, the weather we have at the moment, where it's changing, it could need to be a lot. We got a lot in Caerphilly that needs checking out, I think.
Emma, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I'd like to reassure Councillor that we do have a regime in terms of inspecting our trees on school sites, our trees on public access areas then that might impact on highways or footpaths. So there is a robust programme in terms of inspection and subsequent work on trees that are found to be problematic. You're right, we have a responsibility, a legal responsibility, but just to reassure you that there is a team and a service area and that work is definitely prioritised and carried out. I would also like to respond to Councillor Bevan on the concerns that were raised about equipment, machinery in schools, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to Councillor Bevan that we do have a contract with a specialist company that carry out inspection of all D&T equipment across Caerphilly County Borough Council schools every year. So every year they go in and they make sure that the equipment is legally compliant, there is properly guarded. They make recommendations if there are sort of legal non-compliances or recommendations, and anything there is a legal requirement goes on to RAMIS, so we can then monitor to ensure that the school actually completes the work required.
Right. So, Emma, could I ask you, what's the name of the company that we use?
At the minute, I believe the contract is with a company called HME.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
We got
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Walter.
Sorry, Steve. Did I interrupt you?
No, it's got Juan next.
Juan. Okay, Juan.
Yeah, just thanks, Emma, for on that. Just coming back on the D&T equipment. Yeah, I'm aware of the contract and the regular inspections that take place in school for that. Yeah, mate. For that equipment, I have had some queries mine from staff there around the use of because obviously when children are using those machines and they've got to be there's got to be close contact there with staff there, and it was around mask use, and some of the staff were concerned that because they were having that contact, they were coming within the 2 meters. So it was around COVID. So I don't know if it's worth looking at those risk assessments in the schools to see if that's being covered off. In the one school, I did ask them to go back, and they haven't come back to me. So I'm assuming that's been addressed in the comprehensive school that was raised. But it might be something to look at. I just wanted to also, at this point when we were talking about schools, just thank Emma and the team and around the work that's gone on in schools and those staff working with those risk assessments in extreme difficult conditions right the way through. Which the risk assessments, I think that was reflected by the HSE. So I think it'd be remiss of me not to say that. And we've been working very close, and we've had sight of all those risk assessments to raise any issues as and when. So thanks for that, and hopefully that's going to continue. I'm sure it will be. There are concerns I think that will need to be looking at. Was a raised because we have a regular meeting on a Thursday with the corporate education. With education, sorry, and the next meeting will be a corporate meeting. But I know some of the headmasters have raised concerns now about the issues around next year's exams, with the exams not taking place in GCSEs, because the point they made is a lot of that work, which is going to be assessed by the teachers themselves, is going to have to put those assessments and will be some sort of form of tests, which the way that they explained it on last Thursday was this can only be taken with children sitting shoulder to shoulder in classroom, and raised concern around that. That might be something that needs to be, I'm sure it will be, but that was a very new concern, the health and safety concern around COVID. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Juan. Andrew, Steve, have we got Andrew? Is Andrew? I think I can see Andrew's name coming up.
Hi, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just I can answer some of those points. Certainly, we receive regular updates from the Welsh Government. They issue operational guidelines. Of course, the announcement in relation to exams was only made last week, so we would be waiting for the official updated operational guidelines to be published, and then we would review the risk assessment template and highlight the changes made, which is then issued to all schools and all head teachers. And so in relation to the exams, then that is a point that would be covered in that reviewed risk assessment. Okay.
Right. Councillor Moy. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Steve. It just goes back to Councillor Williams's point about trees falling. Just to inform the committee, I did inform Parks Department beginning of last week from a resident getting in touch with me. that I had an immediate answer from the Parks Department saying that an appropriate engineer would be having a look at it forthwith. I haven't actually been back to see if anything's been done, and I haven't yet received an acknowledgement of any work, but I will be checking it today if I can get out of the meetings. Okay.
Well, see what we can do, Mike.
Right,
Anyone else?
We had Councillor Philbev and Emma had her hand up as well. I'm not sure if Emma wants to come back in on any point that was just raised before Phil comes back in.
Phil, go on.
Okay, well, it's just regards to Emma again. The one inspection a year, the official one, is great, but as Juan has said, there's a need to make sure that there are, I assume, regular inspections by our team going in and checking some of these dangerous machines if they're not used properly. I just wonder whether we do that or whether we just are not capable of covering it all.
Emma?
Just to respond to Councillor Bevan, we did pull in a specialist company. Cleeps came in last year to deliver training on both science and D&T to the health and safety team. So the officer that supports schools has had training on D&T equipment. The intention was that we would start a programme of inspections ourselves, as well as pulling in the company, because I don't think we've got the expertise to do what they do. That will always be a requirement in terms of maintaining machinery guarding and the legal compliance of the kit. But we were going to put in place a programme of inspections also, and that will happen. Obviously, our work programme has been, I think is fair to say, significantly reshuffled due to COVID. So there is an ongoing intention then. I would also say that schools have got obligations to manage this themselves. They have competent staff who would have received training, and they should be regularly reviewing their arrangements and their equipment and their risk assessments. Again, they access specialist training directly. Cleeps offer courses, they book on. We were looking at the possibility of facilitating some courses in-house if there were sufficient demand. So we would arrange a room and pull in the company, and we would recharge the school if there was sufficient interest. Again, COVID has shaken us up, and we've not had the opportunity to do that yet. There is certainly a work stream that I think would be important then, because I think, as with everything, some schools would be better at making sure that their staff are up to date and doing what they should do than others. And I think it would be a good thing for us to facilitate some courses for school-based staff in terms of reminding them of their responsibilities.
Yes.
Emma, I would say that is a priority. Because I came from industry into teaching, and believe me, I saw a lot of things happening that should not have happened, and I had no authority to stop it, because the man in charge of the school, as we all know, is the headmaster. What he says goes. He doesn't always know the best things to do for safety in a workshop, though. And I think that, you know, that what you just said is very important, and we should consider it as a priority. What was the name of the company you said that we...
Cleep.
Can you spell that?
CLEAPPS.
Right.
I believe there's another company that deal with machinery training as well. Maybe Andy could come in here. Is it Data, Andy?
Yeah, so there's the Design and Technology Association, which is Data, and they do provide training. And they would actually come into the school and provide the training, and multiple schools can bunch together and send staff. I myself have attended one of those training courses. It is very much hands-on, but it very much depends on the machinery that the host school has. So therefore, It might be that the training doesn't cover specific machinery that another school may have. So it's all about working within what you feel confident and competent to operate within. Certain machinery, the operation of it is quite similar, but where it's very different, then people should be saying, I'm not trained and competent to operate this machine, and therefore not operate it until they have had the training. But again, that comes down to the head of department for D&T and the head teacher.
Well, Andrew, we seem to be on the same line on this, but I think that, you know, as Phil said, I'm sure the rest of the other members too have experience of working somewhere where there is a danger. And I think that we should be looking at this as a priority, quite honestly. I know the cabinet member isn't present at this meeting. Is he, Colin? He hasn't turned up, is he, Colin? No.
Yeah, I'm your chair. I'm here.
Are you, Carl? Are you listening?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. It should be a priority. I mean, safety for our children is paramount.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's a discussion we can have with Emma and Andrew after the meeting.
Well, it would be good, I think. Okay, thanks, Carl. Thanks for that contribution. Where were we?
Oh, can I ask a quick question on this report, please, Jay?
Yes.
It's only going back to the trees then. I'm looking at when I see the report, you say it's sad that a young girl died after being hit by a tree, but it's got the wind 1 an hour. That's not a strong wind. Do you think because the last 2 years we've had extreme rainfall in short periods of time, ground saturation, is that taken into consideration when our borealists inspect trees on the side of highways, school properties? Because once the ground becomes like slurry, the roots don't have any bed. I've seen lots of trees just fallen.
So
okay,
I could comment possibly on that, in that we wouldn't have that expertise to comment on that. I know that parks have an arboriculturalist, I believe the correct spelling is, or the pronunciation is, specialist in trees, tree surgeon. So we leave it down to their competence. However, they do contract that out as well. So they would appoint other specialist contractors to make their assessments. And it's all down to what is considered a reasonable timescale in terms of revisiting the assessment of trees and taking into a whole range of different factors. For example, the size of the tree, its location. So that's not something that we have expertise in ourselves. That's something we would leave to the specialists within parks.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, then, HSC report. Somebody move, please. Move the report.
Move the report, Chair.
Second. Seconder. Thank you, Phil.
Second, Chair. Councillor Williams.
Right, thank you, Walter. Right, move on then. Where are we? Where are we? Where the hell are we?
Item 8.
Item 8. Health and safety updates, page 37. Emma?
Thank you, Chair. This report gives committee members an overview of the workload, priorities, and I think it's fair to say challenges faced by the health and safety team over the past months. Our work plan and our priorities and our workload effectively, they've all been superseded by an immediate need to support the council in managing the health and safety risks associated with continuing to deliver essential services during the pandemic effectively. Key actions were around interpreting frequently changing guidance. I'm sure you're all aware that national and Welsh Government guidance changed sometimes on a weekly basis. We needed to apply those guidances to CCBC work activities. We worked with procurement in terms of things like ordering and delivering hand sanitizers, delivering and ordering personal protective equipment, supporting on risk assessments. That involved not only developing template risk assessments, but advising and supporting managers with scenarios that were outside the confines of the guidance. I think we need to recognise that health and safety is certainly not the only service area that has faced unprecedented challenges during this time. COVID continues to create a significant work stream for us, and the new challenge is managing our ongoing COVID health and safety issues at the same time as refocusing on our core health and safety priorities. This meeting, again, we've talked about other health and safety priorities. Health and safety remains a legal responsibility then. Complying with regulations remains a statutory requirement. So we are now taking the time to review our work plans, both our directorate and our corporate work plans, and considering how we can balance these with effectively competing demands in a proportionate way. So this report basically outlines what we've done and what we are looking to do then.
Thank you, Emma. Any questions?
Got two hands up, Chair, but
I can't see any hands up.
Councillor Mike Adams and Andrew Wigley.
Oh, Mike, go on, sorry. You switched off at the moment, Mike.
No, that's because my hand isn't up. I withdrew it after my last comment.
Okay.
It shouldn't be showing for anyone else.
No, it's not that.
Phil Bevan, Chair.
Phil.
Mike on, Phil.
Oh, Mike.
No, sorry, I should have lowered my hand. I'm a bad boy like Mike.
Right, we've got Andrew and Juan now.
Andrew.
My hand's lowered, sorry.
Another one gone.
Juan. Okay. Hey, this is going great.
Okay, yeah, I did just thanks for the report, Emma. I think the workload, I think on the health and safety, I know as a union, Unison, we've, that's been a primary area of activity. So much so that we've launched a campaign, at getting more workplace-specific health and safety representative trained and into the workplace, just to make sure, that we have those information, and I think and contact quickly flowing. And I think the report speaks for itself, and it shows how busy, extremely busy and responsive the health and safety team have had to be. So I'm just questioning, going forward and to help us respond to any further pandemics or crisis, that we, as a committee, ensure that we've got the right amount of resource with staff within health and safety. Is that something that we need to be looking at? The question.
Right. Any comment on what Juan just said? In which case?
Well, I think Emma would want more staff if we could afford it, I suspect.
Lynn Donovan want to come in, Chair.
Lynn, carry on.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm sure I can speak for Emma. The point Juan has raised is something that Emma and I continually discuss. The health and safety team will always support the priorities within the organisation, and as you can see from the report that Emma's presented to you, the team have done an amazing job in supporting all services. Should that become a problem, then that is something that Emma and I will discuss with Ed, who's our director, and with corporate management team. But like everybody else at the moment, we're all dealing with the priorities that the pandemic has brought us, and we will continue to adjust to the priorities as they change on a sort of daily and weekly basis.
Okay. Can I just say, Lynn, that I'm full of admiration for the way that our staff have carried on during this crisis, and I really can't fault it in any way. When I get a chance, I stop and talk to the dustmen and I've asked them, criticize us, tell us what we're doing wrong. And to be fair, they're so good. They really are. You know, we have some pretty good conversations, and I think that on the whole, the staff have reacted extremely well, right across the board. And I have to say that, I have to echo that. That's my view. Maybe others will have a different one, but that's my view.
Can I have a quick comment, Chair?
Yep.
I think we've missed one group of people out, right, who have handled this last 6 or 7 months particularly brilliantly, and that is primary school pupils. All schools I know of, primary school pupils are the ones who have taken to this and adhere to the social distancing more than anyone. I think it would be off us to give to all heads of teachers, to give them, if they ever do a letter to their classes, because obviously they can't go into the class bubbles, to say thank you, because these kids are all social distances. They're not meeting up with their sisters and brothers out inside school, and they've handled it really well.
Yeah.
So I echo that, Steve, entirely. I think you're dead right. You know, it's remarkable, really, the way. It's when you see people who don't stick to the rules that you realise how good everybody else is, don't you? You know,
yeah.
It's the thing. But you're right. I agree with you.
Emma's hand has been up a while, Chair.
Who?
Emma's hand has been up a while.
Oh, Emma. Sorry, Emma.
Sorry, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to echo what Lynn had said. Yes, the team has been stretched, but Lynn and Ed are also incredibly supportive. And I think that post this period, we will undoubtedly review and see whether there are things we need that would help us in future. But even if we had made a decision to recruit extra staff early on in the pandemic, I think we need to be realistic that local authority health and safety is a little bit unique. Health and safety officers working in other industries, I think, frequently struggle to adapt to the diverse nature of the activities that we undertake and the local authority specific risks. And without a background and knowledge of some of our key areas like education, then I think that putting in extra staff could have actually created rather than helped solve the problem. So effectively, whilst we'll have those discussions going forward, no doubt, I don't think we could have done anything differently in terms of staffing to prepare us for this then, because nobody knew that we were going to face a global pandemic. Unfortunately, timings meant that we had lost 2 members of the SLA team just before the pandemic. We had 2 members of staff leave at February half term, simply because they wanted to pursue opportunities closer to home or better paid jobs. Again, no criticism of Caerphilly or any particular reason for wanting to leave our team. And also we made the decision a couple of months ago to release a senior health and safety officer to support the environmental health team. And again, that's one of those situations where we had to balance the bigger needs with our needs then, because the pandemic isn't just about managing Caerphilly, it's around the effect on our communities and obviously environmental health. It's about the bigger picture in ensuring that our retail premises and our public houses and our community buildings, then all of our other premises that are not controlled by CCBC have the right support via qualified environmental health officers. So we've also made decisions which I maintain are absolutely the right decisions, but they've impacted, and I really don't think we could have done anything differently, and I don't think Lynn or Ed could have done anything to make it easier or better.
Well, thank you for that. The ringing endorsement. Right. Items 9 and 10. Sorry, let's have a mover and a seconder, please, for the for item 8.
I got my hand raised there. Sorry, can I just come back to Emma there? Yeah, I just want to thank the team really, and I think the point I was making was certainly not one of criticism at all. Nowhere near. I think they've been outstanding, but I know that that's been a hell of a responsibility and a hell of a piece of work, and I think it just highlights that, and that's the point I want to make, that going forward, that we recognise the importance of health and safety and this team, which I think has been clearly demonstrated. So going forward, I wouldn't want to see any any less staff. But I'm trying to advocate that you get the resource you need for whatever you need. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Can I have a mover for item 8, please?
I move, Chair.
And a seconder. Thank you, Mike.
I second, Chair. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Walter. Right, all in agreement? Okay, just show your hands.
Well,
right, items 9 and 10 are both for discussion, and it's requested by the trade union. So, Juan, I'm handing it over to you. All right. I presume that you're the instigator. Are you with us?
Just scrolling up to my agenda. A second.
Well, item 9 is about reporting of injuries.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk with the trade unions and the wider trade unions across the country about what is and what shouldn't be reported under the COVID. And I thought I'm pretty clear, but I thought it'd be a good item there to be discussed. So we've got an idea that I'm sure you're all getting lots of questions on this, as there seems to be out there. So just for some information off Emma, really, so we're clear.
Okay, Emma.
Okay, in terms of reporting of injuries, diseases and dangerous occurrences and the requirement to report COVID-related diseases, the HSE have issued some guidance on it, and it is only a requirement to report a COVID case of disease if it is more likely than not that it is work-related. That's the first criteria. So there has to be reasonable evidence linking work with an increased risk of exposure. So the fact that somebody works with the general public wouldn't be considered sufficient for it to be a riddle reportable if they developed COVID. So we'd need to look at, was the work being done increasing the risk of COVID exposure? Was there a specific incident that led to the COVID case? And did the work bring the person into contact with a positive case without controls in place? So without things like a risk assessment, social distancing, PPE. The other thing to consider is whether a medical professional has highlighted work as a factor in any diagnosis. The HSE are very, very clear that there is no need for a detailed investigation. So it is a judgment based on the available facts and the available evidence at the time. So from a Caerphilly point of view, we've got risk assessments in place, we've got PPE in place, we've got processes in place, and we have got very, very few cases where the work would be able to be clearly demonstrated as increasing the risk of COVID exposure. Where we do get cases, sort of bubbles of cases, then we do discuss them. And obviously we are lucky enough to have environmental health and TTP as part of the council. So we would, if necessary, seek advice from them to identify whether they, as part of their investigations, have identified any work-related failings. So what I would like to do is assure one, that as an authority, we would consider any bubbles of COVID cases on a case-by-case basis. If there was a cluster, then we would look at them. We are going to add a paragraph into the next bulletin, which will be going out today or tomorrow. But what we don't want is managers thinking that they need to contact us to submit a riddle report or fill in an accident form just because somebody has got COVID. The HSE are clear. They do not want people to report as a precaution. So we have got to be very careful, and we've got to be able to clearly demonstrate that there is a link and there is failings and there is an incident that brings that COVID case back to an occupational exposure. And I don't think we've had one yet. I have also discussed this with our neighbouring authorities. So I've had conversations with colleagues in some of our neighbouring local authorities. And again, they are taking a similar approach. They're following the guidance. It is very, very tight in terms of a criteria for a riddle report.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one, please. I said when we're talking about potential risks and COVID infections in our workforce, I've had a few queries off residents who are or council tenants, and they're trying to get work done in their houses, and housing or WHQS, whoever's doing the repairs and the upgrades, are saying we can't come because of COVID. Is this potentially overcautious from our repair staff, or is this a line the council has taken in relation to any faults or anything that needs urgently fixing, like broken windows, broken doors, broken locks?
Emma?
Again, we do take a precautionary approach. However, I understood that work was going ahead, again, with the appropriate controls, and I can't comment in detail because it would depend on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of housing, it would involve checking before somebody goes in, that nobody in the household has COVID or that they're not isolating at that time. It would involve considering whether we can move the person out of the particular room being worked in at that time, sanitizer, hand washing, ventilation. As I understand, housing have in place risk assessments, and work is going ahead where needed because there are things that would need to be done because they are safety critical, and we need to fulfil those functions to keep our residents safe. And as I understand, it is happening.
I've had two phone calls of residents and two phone calls of residents who had one on a broken window, one on a broken door lock, and they were told they couldn't get anyone there to fix it due to a lockdown, due to the current situation we're in. And I thought that was a bit strange, thinking, well, I can go and work in someone's house as a builder, and it's only putting a mask on and asking people to leave the room. I was a bit surprised by it, and I couldn't get any joy off any when I found housing either.
Anybody?
Yeah, Chair.
Yeah.
Chair, I've got my hand up. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Oh, I can see it now, Lynn.
Oh, I can see it now. Sorry, Lynn. Yeah.
That's okay. Councillor Kent, housing are undertaking work. As Emma has said, they do have risk assessments in place to be able to undertake work in people's houses. If you've had some difficulty in getting a response, it might be worth you talking to Sean Cousins, our Chief Housing Officer. He'll be able to help you, but they are undertaking work, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Councillor Higgs.
Right, thank you. I got to agree with Lynn there because they have. We've had work done in our house, and I'm waiting for them to come back now on the 19th to do extra work again in my house. I've had a notification, and we've had the information to keep safe and all of that, all the questionnaires. It's all going about the right way. So I think everything is going fine with it now.
Thanks, Al. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could come in and experience with my eldest son and his wife and daughter. They had 2 gas people coming in doing different jobs. One was fully kitted out, and the other 2 people who came, they didn't have anything on. Now, I think that was the responsibility of the house owner to say, sorry, you can't come in here unless you've got the proper equipment. And I'm just wondering whether that is what people are doing, or at least what they should be doing to protect themselves. I don't think they caught what they had off these people, but it was a coincidence that they came in just before they were identified as having a problem. But they should have said, no, if you haven't got the equipment, you don't come in.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is the responsibility of the householder to say, okay, you know, you're not safe, you can't come in. But it's not easy to do that in this, you know, if you're waiting for something to be repaired, especially if you've got a water leak or something like that. But you know, that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the householder saying, no, you're not equipped. Anyway, anybody else? If not, we note that, please, at item 9, and move on to item 10. Home working display screen equipment, again for discussion. What's the problem? Anybody want to raise anything?
Yeah, Chair, could I just come in on this, please?
Yeah.
Just for a bit of background, that's all. I took a flexible and agile working report, P&R scrutiny, on the 29th of September, and then followed that up with a report to Cabinet on the 14th of October. The Scrutiny Committee would advise that because of the speed and nature of the COVID-19 lockdown, the Council was required to equip and train a significant proportion of its workforce to work and provide services remote from their usual places of work, and in many cases from home. Mrs. Dallimore highlighted several issues that the union wished members to be aware of. I mean, the union supported this as well. The Scrutiny Committee received evidence from Mrs. Dallimore of Unison on the report and noted the trade unions are committed to working with the authority on the proposals, and their thanks to senior officers and their engagement. What have we got to do here, though, is get the balance right for people. Because although we are equipping people at home, we are training people, we've got to get the balance right. When this first started back in March, it was a bit of a novelty. The novelty now was soon worn off. A lot of people are saying they are struggling working from home. We've had surveys done by the staff, and we had 1,483 respondents. And one of the most important parts was 50% stated they'd like to split their time between home and office working. So bear that in mind. Like I said, not everybody is happy working from home. Some people would like to get back into a work environment for their mental health and well-being. It is not as easy as some people thought right at the beginning. As long as we get the balance right, we will go forward and we will do the right thing. There is going to be a different way of working in the future. I think we will get back to some sort of normality within the next couple of years, hopefully, but there will be different way of working. And agile and flexible working is here to stay. It was fully supported by the P&R scrutiny, and it was fully supported by Cabinet. So just a little bit of background to start off the discussion. I don't know if anybody else or Lynn would like to come in with any comments. Oh, I see your hand is up.
Lynn, thank you, Carl. Lynn?
Thank you, Chair. As part of the report that Councillor Gordon has just talked about, there are a number of work streams that need to be developed from that. And it's information on those will be going back to P&R. We will be working through with the trade unions, as I've advised my trade union colleagues in the regular meetings we have. One of those will be around equipment. So we need to understand what services are going to look like going forward, whether our employees are going to be working from home or not, and as a result of that, what equipment they need. And those are areas that I will be developing along with Emma and other employees and managers, and also with the trade unions. So whatever happens, the trade unions will be fully consulted, as I've made them aware.
Okay, anyone want to comment?
My hand is up, Chair.
Right, go on in, Mike.
Yeah. As a councillor, working from home has been mainly the way we do it. So we've had, and most of us have had many years of making sure that we are in a safe environment, that the office space that we've put aside for that purpose should, over that mature time, be a safe area for us to work. The biggest thing, of course, is not coming into meetings and seeing each other face to face and growling and all those facial things that we like to do to say, I didn't agree with that, and all of that. Of course, that's a bit of a misnomer. So the fact of so much time now being put to homeworking, display screen equipment use, and trying to get comfortable for sometimes hours at a time is not always as easy as it used to be. So for all of the staff of the council who are now working from home, hopefully they've had an opportunity to make sure they are comfortable, they are safe, but yes, they want to get back and see what goes on a day-to-day basis and talk to people without it all being recorded or whatever about so many different things. So display screen equipment is only one part of all of this overall effect it's having on us. So far, it's making sure I don't have so many white shirts to have have laundered for me, but I do try to put one on now and again for meetings. Yes, I'm sure everything has been done as well as we can do it. And as Emma answered the question much earlier, very, very few incidents may have been reported or needed to have been reported on how well everyone is getting on. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Mike. Emma, do you want to come in? I can see your hand up, Juan. I'll come back to you, right?
Thank you, Councillor Harvard. Yeah, I just wanted to update everybody. We were pushed into home working early on, and that wasn't an authority choice. That was a government dictate, and that did make it a little bit difficult. There is a COVID health and safety page on the health and safety intranet, which includes some guidance sheets on temporary working from home, guidance for managers and home working employees. So we have tried to give employees and managers the tools to make sure that they know how to consider their work environment, what they need to do in terms of carrying out a DSE assessment. It is very difficult because obviously equipment wasn't immediately available because it just wasn't possible then. There is also general homeworking guidance on the intranet. There includes a homeworking risk assessment. We've included DSE and homeworking on various updates in the COVID bulletins that have gone out to all staff, which include a link to the HSE video showing a good setup. I think a really important point was made earlier that for a lot of people, the novelty of home working is wearing off a bit. And whereas whilst people were willing to put up with things now, as it goes on and as home working becomes the new normal effectively, and some form of home working likely to carry on forever in Caerphilly, then people are keener to have things done properly then. So as a health and safety team, we're also reviewing what information that we have on home working. We've looked at the DSE assessment form, and we've recently updated that to make it more user-friendly for home working. So that updated form is going to be sent out this week. And we are also filming today a video on DSE setups and home working, which tries to balance practical solutions for non-ideal DSE setups with our legal obligations to keep people safe. So it is a difficult balance, because if people haven't got room in their home for a DSE compliant workstation, we can't give them a new room. We can look at things like laptop risers, dual screens, chairs, separate keyboards, vertical mice, separate mice, whatever, footrests. We can look at things like that, but if people simply haven't got the space, then we can't do that then. So we're trying to balance here at the minute, and we are looking at what we've got out there, and we will be putting some more stuff out shortly.
Thank you, Emma. It's noted. Juan, you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I should put my mic on. No, thanks, Emma, for that. And I think, you know, the issues around DSE are something that we may not be apparent until sometime in the future, you know, because these, you know, if you're crypto or in the wrong position, that can take time, but it does have an effect on people, as we know. So I think early on there was the novelty. I don't know if there's ever been a novelty, but it was something that we had to do. Yeah, but going forward now again, I think the information on the intranet, I think that was something that we've brought up because we've had these discussions already, and it was getting managers to keep reinforcing that with people. It's like, you know, you buy something from IKEA and you can put it together with the instructions, but does it always go up as it should be? You know, and I know Emma was working on or looking towards some tutorial, which I think that's what they're doing now, which actually train people as well. So I think that's really important that we keep in mind from this, that you know, we can follow instructions, but we got to keep managers reinforcing that to make sure, because, you know, one day you might be at the kitchen table or in the bedroom or whatever is convenient. Is the nature of working home, and those quick changes, you know, they're all little quick checks that we can all do, because the onus is on the individual. Because, you know, we're not expecting people to go into people's houses and doing a full assessment, because that wouldn't be practical. But again, there's going to be a cost, and as Councillor Gordon said, we're fully on board with this agile working. I think our response is pretty comprehensive. So it's something that we are realising the need for this and going forward. But obviously, there's a cost implication as well. It needs to be factored in and met if it's going to be effective, and we're going to not have any issues that are going to come up in the future, which could have the potential to, you know, be costly to the authority.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I don't think there's anything more to